Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 17. We are wrapping up the final year-end review of the LA Report with your boy, Eris Morrison, and my co-host, my brother, Linjo Kilo.
Yes, sir.
Man, I'm glad that what a time, man. We almost to the finish line.
Nah, facts, bro. This has been the fastest and slowest year of my life. You know what I'm saying? But I'm definitely happy that we're close to the New Year's. We can get on to some new things.
Without question, man. We appreciate you guys sticking with us for our first year. We got a couple episodes remaining. Tune in for that. We got a year-end review that we're going to do, kind of like a thank you tour, a brief one of our year and our journey with you guys. But again, this is episode 17, and today we will be discussing our experiences on the new social media app, Clubhouse. Linjo, you want to tell them about it?
Yeah, man. Clubhouse. Clubhouse is basically an audio drop-in chat. So basically like an audio group chat, right? Where you have to be invited to get inside of the app. So the app is fairly new. I think they call it their beta stage. So within the app, I guess it was made to connect people on like a business networking kind of flow where you have different rooms you hop into and have different discussions about different kind of ideas. But as with anything else with social media, things always take a turn for the worse or can transform into something that you didn't really intend it to transform into. So like I've been in plenty of different discussions, whether it's super relevant, super important, high value information, high value content. And I've been in some rooms that are the complete opposite, where it's just people kicking the shit, talking shit, doing all kind of stuff. So, Clubhouse has a wide variety of avenues that you can take.
Yeah, without question, man. I totally agree with that assessment. I've heard of Clubhouse probably a little less. It definitely wasn't a month ago. Probably maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago, really. And like you said, really just with the uniqueness of having this audio drop in, being able to communicate. I kind of look at it as almost like, the audio version of Twitter, if you will. Just with the variety of conversations that I thought were taking place on the app. But like you said, I mean, it really is an experience of what you make it. There's a lot of progressive networking, money making, lovely business opportunities out there for those of you who haven't explored this app or who haven't necessarily downloaded it. You can come on there and really make it, depending on what you are into, what your field of interest is, really make some solid connections on this app. And also, like you said, it's also an app where you can get into some very spicy conversations, to say the least, that we all love for its toxic nature. It's our entertainment to talk about and discuss some of these things, and we'll kind of get really right into that side of it, and we'll kind of bring it on home with some of the more advantageous business opportunities, as we mentioned before. And one of the first topics that we kind of got into, or one of the clubhouse, one of the rooms that we got into, excuse me, was dealing right next to where our boy Linjo stays at down in Texas. You care to tell them about that? This particular situation. This isn't exclusive, by the way, to Clubhouse. I mean, this was probably blasted on Instagram and made the Twitter rounds. It was just a viral conversation all around the boards as far as what happened on Clubhouse.
Yeah, man. So there's this black-owned restaurant out here in North Texas. It's called True Kitchen. It's I think it's fairly new. I think they came out, or they had their grand opening earlier this year, like probably right before the pandemic or even during the pandemic. I'm not sure on the start date, but it's very popular. Like they have reservations booked up until 2021. So like getting into that restaurant is like harder than getting into some clubs. You feel what I'm saying? So it's that kind of exclusivity that has been centered around the spot. But you know, the food there, from what I've heard, is amazing, and you know, the vibe there is really good. So this situation, there were some young ladies that were there for a Sunday brunch. You know, Sunday brunch, like a Sunday funday kind of vibe. So DJ, good food, good vibes, whatever. Um, from info that I gathered, the young lady and some of her friends were dancing or twerking, and then some of their activity proceeded to them twerking on the furniture within the restaurant. And then the owner told them to stop. They continued, and then he made a big announcement that video had went viral of him basically talking about the purpose of him starting the restaurant for the quote unquote culture, and then telling them that their behavior, their twerking, was unacceptable, and that if you don't like what he's saying, then you can get the fuck out because he don't need your money. So that concept, not concept, but that video right there turned into a big whirlwind of conversation on both ends. So I'll throw it back to you to get your opinion on it, and then I'll give mine.
Yeah, man. So that whole video, man, I mean, I'm sure some of the audience out there, you guys might have seen and heard of this situation. You know, my original take on it was, you know, we live in like this social media era where like, you know, all it takes is about a 15-minute clip, 15-minute, excuse me, a 15-second clip or so for us to get kind of an emotional response that is sometimes misleading. You know, it's a misrepresentation when you first see the clip. Obviously, you don't know the entire backstory, which which you just basically laid out. You know, you just see the restaurant owner kind of going off. Kind of, he's in an emotional state of voicing, you know, his displeasure with the situation at hand with the young women twerking on the glass, and you know, like you said, why he started this business. And so that's all you see, and so obviously it leads to, you know, I'm not one to have ever just rolled with the emotional train of, you know, just what everybody else is saying. A lot of people wanted to, you know, cancel him for that particular clip, and obviously after doing more research and just kind of letting it play out for what it was worth, you started to see and hear different things, which was, you know, the restaurant owner had come and talked to the young ladies. Again, I don't want to reiterate all that you said, but basically my point of view is just that I don't think that he was wrong for his, let me put it like this. I don't think he necessarily was right to project his frustrations out to the masses of his entire restaurant. However, I kind of show him I kind of grant him some leniency, some grace with being emotionally charged at that particular moment in time. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, you're a business owner, you know, you got to make, you know, you got to be smarter than that. And I think that, I mean, obviously we all understand that from a, you know, business perspective, a human perspective, that's all true. But we all have been in situations where we have been emotionally charged and we haven't made the best situation or the best choices when we're in that state. I kind of just looked at it from that perspective, but I don't think he was wrong for his response to those young women. Um, I think I think honestly, it kind of had more probably to do with them standing on his furniture. I think the conversations it was just interesting hearing so many different how many different narratives there were surrounding um, this particular issue. But I personally don't think he was wrong for his emotional response. I do think it was just kind of ill advised for him to, you know, kind of speak it out the way that he did to the masses.
No, I feel you. So the way I look at it, bro, I agree with you to a certain extent. The way I look at it, like yes, I do give him grace because you know sometimes our emotions get the best of us, but at the same time, I don't give him grace because when you are in a certain position, whether you're a business owner, you're an office, you're an athlete, you're a teacher, parent, whatever, there are certain behaviors that are just not acceptable. And I think for him doing that was not acceptable. But you know what I'm saying, his message, who's to say his message was wrong? Like, not even looking at it as like a black man, black women kind of angle. Looking at it like from a business liability standpoint, I don't want you twerking on my furniture, because if you get hurt, I have to pay. If you get on my furniture dancing or whatever, and you fall, you get hurt, you're gonna sue me. You're not gonna say, oh, I was on the furniture because of the DJ playing throw the ass in a circle. You're gonna say, Your Honor, this owner was not looking out for our safety, yada yada yada. So I need so and so amount of money for the damages. You feel what I'm saying? So as an owner, you look at things like that, like, damn, like you're putting me at risk. But at the same time, there's always a process and procedure to how you address people, And I think he was better off just not saying anything to them, or having them leave, or even not even having them leave, letting them do their thing, right? Let's say they do their thing, they leave. Then the next day you make a policy enforcing, hey, no dancing on the furniture, that will lead to your immediate removal. And you just keep shit moving, you know what I'm saying? That's how I would have looked at it. But of course, hindsight is always 2020
For
though.
sure, it's
You know what I'm
definitely
saying?
2020, and I respectfully disagree where you say you kind of let them do their thing, and then the next day come out with a policy. I think maybe he should have just asked them to leave. I think maybe that would have probably been the more direct right choice of action. Although, just from hearing so many different narratives, I can understand that the thought process. And again, I mean, I don't really think there was a whole lot of thought process within his response. I mean, I just think that's what emotionally responsive or emotionally charged people do. They just respond with that initial reaction. It's no real thought process. Because I'm pretty sure when you really think about that situation, if I already asked you once, told you kind of, there was a video obviously that we've all seen, or that we at least seen, where you can tell even without uh, even without hearing the audio, just alone from the hand gestures that was going on, it looks like this man was basically pleading with them to basically say, look, I know. I interpret his hand gestures for him. I'm speaking for him in this context. Like basically, like, I know you out here, y'all having a good time, y'all drinking. I want y'all to enjoy yourselves, but please don't do X, Y, and Z. Don't stand on the furniture. Don't do this. And I just think that, having that, having said that and been in that situation, again, I don't want to excuse his actions for talking to the entire, like, I don't want to excuse his actions for talking to the entire restaurant like that. And obviously the restaurant, at least from what the video showed, he's obviously berating or yelling at, black women, which is an entirely different conversation as far as, obviously respecting black women and showing them the adequate level of respect, which I do think they deserved in that situation. It was, for me, it's just a lot. It's a lot of narratives in there. Like I said, I think if he did ask them to leave, I think that possibly would have been another situation in and of itself. But I think that probably would have been the smoothest way to just kind of, quell that particular drama without having him go viral, if you will, the way that he did.
No, I feel it, bro. This is always part of the conversation about like black businesses and you know how we conduct ourselves and stuff like that. Where it's like, damn, now I guess we can both agree here that we need to support black businesses,
No
right?
question.
That is a absolute truth that we can agree upon. But it's like, at what point do we start holding ourselves as patrons accountable for our actions? You feel what I'm saying? I'm not trying to down talk about the women, but it's like if someone asks you to stop one time, then why would you continue that if we all have an established truth or we want to support our black businesses? So if he asks you nicely to stop, then why do you continue? You feel what I'm saying? So then at that point, it's like, what other route do you expect to happen sometimes? Like, he asked you nicely. Sometimes most people are not going to come back at the same time and be nice about it. You feel what I'm saying? But I agree with you. Like maybe he could have went about better, like tell him to leave and stuff like that. But it's like we have to. It goes twofold. We have to hold our black business owners accountable with their customer service and their products, whatever the case is. Also have to hold ourselves accountable as patrons and as consumers of these black businesses. Like, you know, it's like each one teach one. Like we can't go in places acting a fool and then saying, oh, it's because of the songs that are playing, or saying, oh, it's because that's the atmosphere that's set. It's like, come on now, we can't fall into those excuses every single time something happens and only point the finger at the other person and not look at how we could have changed our behavior ourselves.
Yeah, and
You know what I'm
it
saying?
always just comes back to just accountability. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, a lot of this shit, man. Like for me, the toxic, like it's entertainment for sure. So I don't take it for things become, um, because a lot of it is toxicity in which we enjoy. So the debates around this situation, it's like a lot of it's very cutthroat and simple. Like a lot of people get into whether or not he was demonizing black women, or people were talking about whether or not he doesn't respect the culture because it was like he had something problem with twerking. I think people look at shit way too deep, and I think the reason why they look at shit way too deep is because I mean, I'm not knocking it, but admit your intentions, right? Like you're looking at it that deep because you want to create something that's toxic to provide entertainment, to provide talking points, which I ain't tripping off of. I'm just saying, call a spade, and at least a nigga could be like, all right, I can respect that, and kind of keep it moving with that type of energy. So like that's where I stand on it. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, yes, the restaurant owner should have shown accountability in himself to understand that, like, yeah, while and this is the thing, like I kind of felt him. A lot of people disagree with me on this. Like when you said, because when we, listening on Clubhouse, a lot of people who frequent the restaurant, I wanted to hear from individuals who, either lived in the Dallas area or at least have frequented his restaurant to kind of let me know what the vibes were and like kind of let me know what his situation was like. And while people are like, it's a club like environment, everyone agreed that it wasn't a club, that it was indeed a restaurant, that this restaurant is always indeed packed to capacity, in terms of needing a reservation. So, when his energy was such like, I don't need y'all money, and if you don't like it, you can get the
Respects.
F. I would, again, accountability wise, that's not what you do. Business wise, I'm not disagreeing with that. But like the energy wise, I mean, this man has his situation is so locked up, so lined up that to me, what it also speaks volumes to is the amount of people who actually are agreeing with the energy that he put out in terms of not wanting that type of people or that type of I'm not gonna say that type of people. I'm just gonna say who might not necessarily agree with people twerking or dancing or doing such things while they're eating. So for him to say all of that, it strongly emphasizes to me that he clearly kind of knows his clientele as well. So again, accountability though, it definitely should be placed on him as the owner, as someone who makes decisions. You don't want to go viral for that purpose, but at the same time, holding those young women accountable for their behavior is equally as responsible, equally as important. And, it's just that simple to me. It really don't need to be anything deeper of a conversation.
Yeah, man. I agree, man.
So,
I agree 110%, especially with the point you made about people looking at things way too deep just to create talking points for an agenda they personally hold. That's true across the board with a lot of
yeah.
things, bro. Especially with this next topic, we talked about it before about the dude Kevin Samuels.
Oh,
You know
that
what I
was
mean?
that was
Like,
crazy. That was actually for our women audience out there. When we have a lot of you guys that listen to the show, so um, don't get on us too hard, man. I thought that shit was low key hilarious at first. It was definitely cringeworthy.
bro.
But
Mm-hmm.
you can go ahead because you brought these things to my attention. You can go ahead and kind of give them the breakdown of just, you know,
Yeah,
the
man.
story.
So basically, who Kevin Samuels is? Kevin Samuels is he's big. His biggest platform is YouTube. He's like a relationship, not relationship, but like he's like an advice giver. Like people call into his show and his live stream and ask him questions about relationship shit, et cetera, et cetera. This particular clip that went viral, well, and also to preface, Kevin Samuels, he has a very harsh approach. Like people, like that's how he got popular on YouTube was because of the amount of audacity this man has and the way that he does not hold his tongue. You feel what I'm saying? So that's really how he gained traction on him being an asshole, right? So let me say that first. So this particular clip that went viral was there was this young lady, or yeah, she's a young lady. She has a child, and she was asking, for advice on how to get, men that make the same amount of money as her or higher. She makes $100,000 a year, lives in North Carolina, whatever, right? So then he proceeds to ask her, like, what would you rate yourself? She says a 5 or 6, yada yada yada. He goes on to say, long story short, that she needs to lower her standards because the reality is niggas or men that make the kind of money that she wants them to make are not going to pick her. You feel what I'm saying? Of course, the way he said it at first, it was hilarious. But then after a while, it became, like you said, cringeworthy because of the amount of audacity the nigga had. Like, damn, you really going this ham on her? Like, wow. That's what my thought was at first. But then after a while of me listening to it, I said, well, damn, he does have a point. You feel what I'm saying? And then that became a whole thing on Clubhouse too, because like you said earlier, people look for things way too deep and try to make it into something that is not. So then it became the convo we had with the young lady into why black men hate black women and why black women should not date black men and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We were also in the room ourselves trying to talk about this as well.
Yeah,
You know,
I got kicked out of motherfucker. I got kicked off the stage having this conversation. Yeah, I got
for
kicked
real.
off a stage. I was in some room, and I get clearly the the young lady did not uh did not agree with my sentiments, but how I basically felt about that situation, and again, like I always say, like, we live in this world, and we live in this world where basically you can't tell people how they should feel about things. And so I'm not here to tell anybody how they should have felt. Like, we all can interpret and feel things differently. However, I'll start with some basic points with this whole thing. I would start off by saying I personally felt as though it was cringeworthy because of the tone that he used. Again, it was the tone, but that's a tone that he uses with everyone. It's his entertainment value. That's what he gets. That's kind of why people tune in. You have to have some type of personality for people to want to tune in. I mean, and again, understanding that toxicity sells. So, his tone is a part of his toxic entertainment value. It's just that simple. People want to talk about why he shouldn't do it, but it's like that defeats the purpose of his platform for him. You know what I'm saying? So that's number one.
Mhm.
Number two, this particular young woman. So, first of all, how I felt when he says rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. You can't use 7, he says. I feel like if she felt like she was a 7, just hypothetically speaking, she should have said 7. I mean, you're not going to tell me to choose 1 through 10 and tell me a number that I can't say. I get the premise of why he said not to say 7, but it's like, no, I'm not. Like, if I feel like I'm a 7, I'm going to say I'm a 7. However, what I will speak to is more so like the lack of confidence in that particular woman. A lot of times in our society, confidence is misplaced. A lot of people walk around with confidence that we all sometimes agree to disagree that they should or should not have. But it's the confidence that they have that allows them to, take their licks, hit some success. We all take losses, but you just have that confidence that, hey, I'm going to be able to pull. Men have the utmost of confidence when we are approaching and talking to women. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of men, we go into situations where it's like, I mean, I don't even give a damn. I'm gonna shoot my shot. Like we say, shoot or shoot. There's a reason why that expression is there, right? You know what I'm saying? So confidence is half the battle. And so for her to say she's a 5, you know what I'm saying? Like, I look at it like a grading scale. I tell I'm like a 5. Nigga, a 5 out of 10 is a F. Like, that's failing, my G. And you just say 6 with makeup, that's still a F. Like, you still hit. Like, I'm like, you got to look at a 7 is an average. Like, people talking about some. So I thought he was low key being nice or being considerate when he said, 5 out of 10 for is average. No, 5 out of 10. I look at it as a grading scale. I don't. That's just me. I mean, everyone's scale is different, but me personally, I'm like 7 is average because 7 is a C. That means you ain't terrible. I mean, but a 70, to when it comes to the idea of looks, that's subjective. So obviously, looks in general are subjective. But if someone says I'm a 7, like to somebody else, that means you could look like an 8. That just because you're a 7, you could be a 7.8. You could be from between a 7.0 and a 7.9. You could be closer to an 8 than you are a 7. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of different variables to that. So it's all subjective. But I just felt like her confidence was kind of shook when she says that she was a 5 or a 6. And I think a lot of people kind of missed the boat where he said, a man that is of her stature as far as, monetary value, that she was seeking. Not that she doesn't deserve a man like that. I think that it was, I mean, and if he said deserve, I think that was definitely the cringeworthy, like, you don't deserve. I don't think that, me personally, I don't think that.
No, I think he said
Right.
she does not
So, okay.
qualify.
So people say qualified and deserve are interchangeable. I don't really agree with that. I think qualified, because I just feel like when you say qualified, it's more so saying, like, in my opinion, just again, my opinion, I'm assuming that that makes me feel like more in line with, okay, a guy who's making, you both are making $100,000 plus a year. You find yourself, you qualify yourself to be a 5 and a 6 at best. No matter if that guy, on the other hand, let's just say he's a 5 or a 6, he's going to be looking for a woman who definitely doesn't qualify herself as a 5 or a 6. You feel what I'm saying? So it's not, I mean, it's not that she can't find someone. Like, we all know that there's no such thing as 100% certainty in life of anything. So it's not to say that she couldn't. I would never say that you wouldn't find, or you're never going to find someone. I would never go that far because I think that's a mistake. But I'm just saying, like, even if the other guy is supposedly, an unattractive male by all accounts, I think his biggest point was that, and I think, the subjective part where a lot of men should take a step back and not just clown the woman is that I think his point was more so saying, hey, fellas, if you're not in the top 10% of men if you ain't making 6 figures. So when he tells her you should date an average guy, I could assume he means anybody or any male that makes under $100,000 a year is to be an average guy. Doesn't matter how attractive they look. It's just that a top 10% of men in by his definition will make over that. So she didn't qualify for the type of man that she was seeking. And again, I think qualify is a bit of a harsh word because no one wants to be told they're not eligible for some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, well, in today's time. So I get it, but I just felt like her confidence was misplaced. I felt like, obviously his entertainment value was being as as explicitly blunt as he possibly could. I don't think that he hates black women, and I feel like the narrative around men protecting black women, while vastly a undervalued uh, conversation that is continuously had, I don't think every situation, just because of the the circumstances, is a sign of disrespect or hatred towards our women.
Yeah, I agree at that point, bro. I agree with your last point, man. And I'll be honest with you, dog. Two things stood out to me, man. Number one, when she rated herself a 5 or a 6, and then he was asking her, like, I got the word he used. He was asking basically like what else did she bring? And then she said, my body. That deducted more points off her score to me, because I'm like, I'm like, damn, you don't even have enough words to express yourself and say why you are worthy of, you know, this type of man. You feel what I'm saying? Like if she would have been like, well, I'm charismatic, I'm responsible, I'm loyal, I'm resourceful. If she would have been able to eloquently defend herself, that would have made her more attractive to me.
That's
You
some
know what I'm
valid
saying? That's number
points.
one.
Those are some
Number
valid points that
two,
didn't.
you know
Those
what
are
I'm
a lot of
saying?
valid points that weren't even brought up. So I definitely think that's definitely.
No, no, for sure. For sure. And then number two, I mean, let's be as completely blunt as possible, man. The nigga was not lying to her. Let's just call a spade a spade. He was not lying. He was telling her the exact truth. She said in the video, I went and watched the full video. She said she will not submit to any man that does not make $100,000 or more. So that means she wants like his definition, not ours. His definition. She wants a nigga, or I'm sorry, a man that's in. She said a black man. She wants a black man that's in the top 10% of men, right? So let's put it into some more context. You know, women are higher earners than men. Like, there's more women making $100,000 than there are men.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, black men, right? So if a woman says, I only want men that make that kind of money, like I want a man that's my equal per se, that means that the ratio of men to women is going to be completely lopsided. So for every one man, let's say hypothetically, every one man that makes $100,000, there's 7 women that make
Mm-hmm.
$100,000, right? So then he brought up the point and said, well, man, you're 35 years old. You have a 13-year-old son. I don't know how old the son was, but anyways, she's 35, has a son, and she has, this is the biggest part, a sketchy baby father, right? So as a dude that has all these options, why would I choose you? Logically speaking, why would I choose someone that has all this extra stuff that comes with them? So I have to love her, I have to love the child, I have to be equitable with the baby father. So you're asking me to take on a lot of stuff just to be with you, and all you bring to the table is
Right.
your body? Logically, that does not make sense. I'm going to choose one of the other 6 options that may be easier to get with. And the truth that people were saying, oh, there's no truth in this video. The truth is this: that it was 2 truths. First truth is that, well, not 2 truths. The truth is that the more variables you bring, or quote unquote baggage you bring to a situation, the harder it is for you to date. That is the bottom line. It's not impossible, but that's the bottom line. Is that the more baggage you bring, the harder it is for you to date, and that's just what it is. Like speaking logically, if let's flip it, if there was a woman that has no kids, whatever, and I'm a man, I make $100,000, I got a kid, and I got a wild baby mom, and you have other options of guys that make the same amount of money as me, but don't have all the extra baggage, you're probably going to pick one of them because it's going to be easier upfront to deal with that and to build your own thing. You call your own. Then have to assimilate with another situation. You know what I'm saying? And people really overstep that point. Like that really is what his whole entire point was. Of course, he didn't say that the way I'm saying it, where she could understand. That's what the truth is. And that's the bottom line. It's harder to date when you have more things going on. That is what it
Yeah, I
is. You
think
know what I'm
I
saying?
think, man, like there's certain things that, like, as men and women, and there's certain things that as men and women we just think differently on. Like I know there's some women that will agree wholeheartedly with the point that you made, and kind of agree with kind of our line of thinking on the situation. And there's some men who are definitely agreeing, obviously, with a lot of women where they're like like a lot of women felt like he took instead of a lot of women felt from the conversations we've had, that he should have taken the opportunity to build her up after kind of seeing her confidence, if you will, shaken. Obviously, when she self-describes herself as a 5 or a 6, and while on a philosophical yet understandably moral level, I can empathize with that opinion, right? Like, seeing someone kind of basically say, I'm not. it's weird because on one hand you're saying you're worthy because you're saying like I can only date this type of guy. Period. End of story. So you're saying you're worthy in that respect, but then on the other side you're like, well, I'm only like a 5 or a 6. So it's kind of like her saying like, I'm not that she's not worthy, but woe is me a little bit. And I understand people saying he could have taken that opportunity to say, try to make her feel better. But like I think where like where the difference in how we all just kind of process and think about it is that he's not saying you can't get a man, right? He's just simply again qualifying it from his perspective as far as the type of men that she would want to attract. And again, I would never tell her that it's like we mentioned again that it's not a possibility for her to get one because that's not true. The reality is obviously beauty's in the eye of the beholder, which I mean, if anything, maybe he should have just said that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, because that is undoubtedly true. And at the end of the day, anybody can find anybody attractive and move forward. But, just to kind of echo your last point that you made where, you know, the biggest thing that you said that was just facts is that a lot of women, I know personally, don't want to date men with children. They would prefer not to because they don't like dealing with baby moms. They don't like dealing with a man with having another child. So, you know, with that being said, it's like, hey, you have to be able to understand the energy then that a man would have in that same situation. And I don't think that it's always taken that way, respectfully. Respectfully, you know what
Definitely
I'm
not
saying? Like I
taking that
said,
way.
I know there's some women that will agree with us and a lot of women or some women who will probably be like, nah, that ain't true. But again, the reality of, I think another thing is a lot of women personalize that conversation because maybe some of those variables with them are truth for themselves, not as far as them being 5 or 6 and, the face or anything like, but more so just circumstances. Maybe you are in your mid 30s. Maybe you have a child from a previous relationship. Maybe you felt like some of the relationships maybe haven't worked out the way that you have wanted them to work out. Maybe you felt like he was being a bit too insensitive to single moms out there trying to date and who have things to offer, who are breadwinners in their own respect. You know what I'm saying? Maybe those things are kind of internalized and therefore personalized, and therefore, you kind of shut down and tune out the I don't want to say bigger picture, but just the different perspective that was offered or that could be offered in a respect. Like I said, I think we can't get too caught up. And I know a lot of people, this what kind of got me kicked off the Clubhouse stage. I kept trying to kind of just reiterate like how he spoke to her shouldn't be your focal point of the energy because it's entertainment value of toxicity. Like it's kind of like being on Clubhouse in the same respect. You see people that get, kind of it's a toxic environment sometime on Clubhouse. You're sitting there choosing to engage, right? Not saying that this makes it any worse or any less, but you can always leave. You don't have to sit there and if you feel like someone's berating you or you feel like someone's, talking down to you, you don't have to sit there and take it, right? You mean no one's forcing you to. And it was just like she also knew, as she said before, she was a fan of his show. So she was aware of the way in which he explicitly basically kept it real with folks. So I don't think the way that he spoke to her
Mm-hmm.
again was it cringeworthy? Yes, just because of the type of shit that, to be honest, it wasn't just cringeworthy because of what he was saying. It was cringeworthy because of what she was saying. Like it was the combination of the two
Mm-hmm.
that had you just being like, damn, like like what am I watching? Like what is going on here? And so at the end of the day, man, even with that conversation, I just think that listen, we all are entitled to our feelings, and there's just some things, hey, we're not going to agree on. And I do think, though, when we have conversation, though, man, like I've been mentioning this the other day, where communication, a lot of times we talk about communication so much. Communication for a lot of people is them relaying their thoughts. When I think of communication, it's about clearly and effectively articulating my point of view to someone else or to the masses. However, the other side of communication is having someone on the other side to receive what it is that you're saying, to really hear you, listen to you, kind of internalize it, and be able to respond with a viewpoint that does not echo your same beliefs, but is able to say, okay, this is what you said, and this is how I feel about it, versus you giving what it is that you feel, you articulating yourself effectively and clearly, and someone just specifically going off of what it is that their emotions shoot out. I always tell people sometimes it's easier to just say, you know what, to let people know before you respond and go on a tirade as far as an emotional tirade of what it is that you believe. How about when someone speaks to you, how about you legitimately regurgitate what it is that they just said so you're clear what it is that you're about to respond to, so that way it's understood on both sides. Okay, when I say what I'm about to say, we both are in agreement that I'm responding to exactly what it is that you said.
That's a very good practice, bruh. For all the listeners out there, y'all tired of people, over talking you and having conversations and discussions, and you feel like no one's getting the point across. That right there is a great practice to instill. You feel what I'm saying? And I totally agree with that, man. And like you said before, man, people look at things a little bit way too deep, bro. Look at things way too deep, and sometimes their overanalysis, takes the conversation out of context. You know what I'm saying? The bottom line, at least in my opinion, is she knew exactly what she was getting into going on that show. Because like you said, that's his entertainment value. So people know exactly what time it is. People don't go to a comedy show, sit in the front row, and expect not to be a part of the show. People don't go to Jerry Springer not expect to see some fucking shenanigans. People don't go to the Maury show and not expect shenanigans. Matter of fact, if you go to the Jerry Springer show and there's no shenanigans, no wild stuff, you will be disappointed. The same kind of thing with Kevin Samuels. You go to Kevin Samuels' page to hear this nigga hear this dude's audacity. And you come across the episode, if you're a fan, you come across the episode where it's just plain Jane, then you will be upset because that's not why you came. You understand? 3, you know what I'm saying? And 3, he was not, in my opinion at least, he was not lying. He was giving her, what he was saying in essence was true, but I agree he didn't get his point across clearly enough where she could understand. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. I mean, like I said, bro, like these type of conversations, they are entertainment. That's why we bring them to, you guys. I mean, we love to hear your perspectives. I mean, these are, a few weeks old, a few weeks dated, but, still relevant in terms of just the level of conversation that is being had on not just platforms like Clubhouse, but obviously Instagram, Twitter, but Clubhouse is just the new way of just being able to express yourself in audio form, kind of like unlike anything we've ever had social media wise. So that's kind of why we're just bringing it to you guys. And like I said, we can really kind of transition a little bit just as we kind of wrap up this latest episode for you guys, but just talking about some of the other, positive sides of, not just, I mean, this wasn't a negative side of Clubhouse. Let me not even put it like that. Like I said, it's just toxic, right? It's the stuff that we love to say we hate, but really deep down we enjoy. We come back for more. And we all have a little bit of that in us. You know what I'm saying? It's the reason why you all follow. I can't believe we about to give another plug on the podcast, but it's the reason why you all follow. What's his name? Justin LA Boy on. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the reason why we
Exactly.
love the toxic energy, and it makes us laugh. It makes us feel good in a moment. It makes you want to talk a little bit of your shit, but at the end of the day, we know it's toxic. We know a lot of that shit is problematic, but I mean, it is what it is. It's just it's good to have conversations, but it's just like I always say, and to your point, you do a good job of articulating this as well. I don't mind conversations for the sake of conversations. And I think you mentioned it the other day, like it's important to know whether or not we just have an eventing session or, we're trying to actually, make some progress and hand out some solutions. So,
Mm-hmm.
I credit you with
Mm-hmm.
saying that because that's very important a lot of times, to know the distinction.
Nah, dog, real rap, man. And that's one thing I've noticed, at least when it comes to this. I don't want to say verses because it just has such a negative connotation. But for lack of a better term, this versus black women versus black men. You feel what I'm saying? And I empathize with our women because they have been marginalized and their voices have been shut down for so long. So I try to encourage folks like, hey, read the room. Like if you go into a clubhouse room, you go into a discussion anywhere else, when black women are expressing their frustrations, let them do that. Just let them do that because as we know, women are very intelligent as well. So 9 times out of 10, they probably already know the solution. They want to get it off their chest, or at least have you acknowledge that you recognize their pain. And then from there, that's when you can start to have some sort of like solution solution oriented conversation. But going to a fucking clubhouse room and then fucking debating women because of the way they feel is fucking counterproductive, dog. Like, so yeah, man, you're basically just you know making their point true. Where you come into a room, you go into a discussion, and you're trying to go back and forth about the way that they're feeling is counterproductive. So like not even on some like trying to be a simp, but just give women their space, especially black women. Just give them their space to let their emotions out, because 9 times out of 10, their experience with black men is not a reflection of you. That's a reflection of the men that they've experienced. So don't take offense to what they're saying, because they're venting trauma and they're venting hurt. So it's not always going to come out in the best manner. It's not always going to be eloquent. It's not always going to sound good to your ears. But you just have the understanding that, okay, let them get it off their chest. And then from there, we can have a dialogue on how we can correct things and how we can make things better. Because, you know, the bottom line, at least when it comes to like the protection or protection of black women in general, or protection of people, or the word protection in general, is that protection is never acknowledged when it happens. Protection only is acknowledged when it's absent. You feel what I'm saying? So
Thanks.
if I'm doing what I have to do on a daily basis, I'm not going to get that recognition for my protection or my effort. It's only going to happen when it's absent. So as men, we got to understand that sometimes we're not going to receive all the credit that we may think that we should for I guess good behavior or doing what we're supposed to do. You feel what I'm saying? And that is a harsh reality. Like, to bring it into context, like let's say like the Department of Energy, and when they dispose of nuclear waste, they're essentially protecting the American people, because if they have one mess up with handling that waste, that could blow up a whole city. You feel what I'm saying? So each and every day that they do work and there's no mistakes, there's no mishaps, is a day of protection for the American people that we don't even realize. But if there was one slip up, let's say there's 100 days that go by, and 99 days is no slip ups. And on that last day of the slip up, we're going to say that there was no protection at all. And that's just the reality. So we have to understand that. So it's like, hey, we might have to take some licks, take some harsh words,
but understand on the other end of that, we can find some viable solutions that can be applicable to individual situations, so that the narrative can start to shift, and we can start having this war between black men and black women, because we have far bigger issues as a community to face than be battling them with one another. You know what I'm saying?
Man, those are facts, man. I think it's not much to really add on. I think we just, like I said, man, it's just all important to just listen to one another, and really hear, and they say the best behavior is change behavior. Um, and I mean, like for black men, doing a better job of us just being present as far as our energy. And like you said, we're not going to get, adulation for protection. It's only really brought up when it's not there. I think that's a very valuable thing to present. But man, I mean, like I said, man, this conversation is, as it kind of shifts a little bit, to talking about protection. I would say that again, protection of black women is a very simplistic thing for me. For me, it's just treating every black woman with the respect and dignity that I would give my mom, my aunts, my cousins, any women in my family. There's a ton of black men out there who don't play about their sisters. None of us play about our mamas, and they don't play about their daughters. So that's the energy in which you should give all women. However, I think what's also important to bring up as far as a reality, um, there will never be 100% of black men who protect and who respect black women. Black men, just like black people, are not a monolith. We do not move all at the sound of the same drum. Our morals are all different. And while it's important for us to hold our friends accountable for how they are around black women, we are all individuals who all put forth the requisite effort or not in serving in women's protection. And so I think it's important to just realize that as a culture, this will never be 100%. And so the reality is we'll always kind of continue to have this conversation, in which case I'll never be mad about it or upset. It's kind of draining just because it seems like we're so much infighting within our own race. However, I'm not mad when it does arise that we point it out and at least say this is not acceptable. So, that's where I stand on it.
No, I feel it, bro. I completely agree, man. If more men took that approach or had that kind of awareness, bro, the narrative would shift. Of course, like you said, there'll never be 100%. But I think the biggest thing is changing the narrative, and the narrative will definitely shift if more people had that awareness. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's
And that's,
crazy. I just to bring just to kind of wrap this up, so like I had a person the other day, they was like, it's so weird how like life works, right? It's so fascinating when you read the Bible and you think about. I read the Bible, and I think a lot of people choose and pick and choose when to be spiritual. And I think when you read the Bible, what the Bible sometimes does, it provides you a clear context and lets you know that a lot of like a lot of shit that's going on today has gone on since the beginning of time. And I think a lot of people don't really realize that. And that someone said, well, they was bringing up it was with a young woman, and she was talking to me about feeling protected, and just she was like, she brought up the fact of like, would you be friends with someone who like men who continue to be friends with people who disrespect black women? And I said, you're absolutely right, where Like, I understand you don't need, as a man, you don't want to you don't want to endorse said behavior. But it's always interesting to say and see, like, even in the Bible, I know some people may not agree with this, some people might have indifferences, but like, it seemed like God always chose people with the most problems and kind of made them prominent figures, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Like, people were robbers, some people were murderers, some people were rapists. And it's just to say that while I don't have to associate with their behavior right then and there, or condone their behavior, I don't think you should necessarily have to give up on them as people if in which they're showing changes in their behavior. You know what I'm saying? I think change, like I said, the best behavior is change behavior. But this person, well, I guess where I'm going with it was also more so like, if a person made a mistake, then that they look at it as like that person's mistake lives with them, which it does. But like, it's almost like they can't ever do anything that will ever, overcome it. And I don't personally believe that. I mean, I don't think that way, but for me, it's just like when I read the Bible, I just find it fascinating how, like, you do realize how many people God has used who were in a lot of situations that were just like, they were just down bad, just messed up people.
No, I feel you. I think that is to show that is to show that it's to provide context to provide reassurance on how no matter where you start, you can always finish on top. You feel what I'm saying? And I think yeah, man, I think everyone deserves second chances. It's kind of funny you say that, bro. I'm a bit on the opposite end. Like, yeah, I will you know, forgive you and all that stuff, and your behavior will change. For me, like I never forget. So it's like, yes, your behavior now has changed, and my behavior has now changed. But like, I'm no longer going to associate with you the same way that I did once before. You know what I'm saying? So I feel you though. I feel you 100%. But that's definitely a really good point,
Oh
bro.
no,
You know what I'm saying? Maybe you know what I'm
no.
saying?
The thing is, I would never tell you any differently. You know what I'm saying? I think everybody has their own. I'm just saying, like, it's like if someone's not changing who they are, like, obviously you're not God, so you don't know their plan for, you don't know his plan for their life, so you can't, like, they can change. But I'm just saying, for like individuals in which make mistakes and they do change genuinely, like I said, I'm not knocking anybody for being like, nah, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm straight. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, like, it's fascinating to think about though, like when you really do break it down, and you, like, when you, especially because when people try to use spirituality and talk about how much they do believe in God and this all this stuff, you just realize, just like I said, this stuff has been going on since the beginning of time, and God has just always seemingly used just anybody, obviously, and he uses anybody for his will, no matter what we think about them. So it's just a fascinating thought process that I'm just like, it kind of just provides me with a level of, like, at least it tries to, at least it kind of provides me with a little bit of objectivity and a little bit of empathy towards certain situations. I mean, like I said, I'm not here to ever say, or like, I'm not condemning or criticizing or even judging at all with other people or how other people look at the situation, because everything is based off the lens in which you see it through. You know what I'm saying? But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's just, yeah.
No, that is true. It's all about the lens you look at it through, and I don't want to drag it on, but I think because we look at everything through our own different lenses, that kind of creates more division on certain topics. You know what I'm saying? How like we're so tied to how we see things that it's like there's almost no room for progress, or there's no room for collaboration, or no room for you know solutions that can benefit everyone. You know what I'm saying? So
Without question.
yeah, man.
I mean,
Yeah, man. It's tough, man. Especially with this black woman and black men conversation, bro. Everyone looks at it through their own lens, and it's like, You know, it's like it's almost every day. Like you're on Clubhouse every single day. You can find a room about this every day,
Yeah.
and some rooms will be better than
Yeah,
others.
some
Some
conversations are
rooms will be fucking
progressive.
wild.
I mean, I'm not even going to cap. That's actually cap. I don't feel like any of the conversations, any of the rooms that I've been in with these conversations were they progressive, because I think they're
None of
intended
them.
to be progressive. They start off, and then right on cue, there's an emotional turning point in which either side, male or female, men or women, react and according to what someone else says, and it just tilts the whole conversation into a now. I mean, really, what ends up happening is just a bunch of people in that motherfucker talking, and no one's listening to each other. So therefore, like again, it's just a soundboard of event session to say this is what I feel. Hopefully, someone listening to you. Maybe there's not. And the crazy part is, there'd be like 200 people in a room with this thing. So it's a very fascinating dynamic, but there's so many positive and so many real opportunities. Like I said, we done talked a lot about the toxicity of these things, but I mean, toxicity is also, in a lot of respects, a lot of real situations. So, we'll never escape those, and we'll always be able to talk about them. But, Clubhouse, for those of you who are, again, familiar with this app, if you got business opportunities, business ideas, man, coming onto this app would be a perfect opportunity for you. Once you're in there, you can start a room, start a chat, and pretty much moderate and have different people pop in and add to your conversation. And you just never know who you can meet that's in the field doing the things that you're doing. I mean, this isn't a local app. This is really a worldwide app. So, business is done 24/7 around the world. So, even if you're looking in to break into certain things, there's a lot of conversations that I've personally have sat in on. I've gained a lot of insight, a lot of information just sitting in on rooms. There's a lot of people, celebrities are on there, of course, celebrities who are talking about, I mean, for my business folks out there, you got like the Wall Street Trapper, he's on there. You also have Earn Your Leisure. Those guys are on there. Just a lot of big hitters. Damon John uh, uh, from Shark Tank is on there. Just I mean, that's just to name a few people that are like on there from a business standpoint. Just we already listened to some of their podcasts, but just dropping jewels and really being able to kind of talk to them outside of the podcast. Really, you can get on there, have a real live conversation about doing some business. So a lot of positive.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, I was saying, yeah, I agree. If you my biggest advice for anyone that's new on Clubhouse, man, don't go on there for the games. Go on there and have a strategy on what exactly you want to do. You know what I'm saying? Go on there. Of course, everyone's gonna try to have fun here and there, but at least have a direction and curate your experience to align with what your goal is. Because at least for me, I already have enough social media shit that I spend bullshit time on. With Clubhouse, I look at Clubhouse as a way to navigate and get closer to people that I need to be around. You feel what I'm saying? So I encourage everyone that's joining the app to, try to adopt that kind of thinking, and your experience with the app will be second to none.
Absolutely. And thank you guys for again rocking with us for episode 17. Man, it seems like just yesterday we really got this thing started off the ground. Can't tell you guys if we have one or two more episodes. I know we have one for sure, might have two. But we will be doing obviously a year in review. We know it's been a tough time out there for a lot of people, both financially and obviously just emotionally with the loss of life. But always we are here for you. We send you our prayers, our love, and we appreciate you guys for rocking with us. It's been an awesome year. We're hoping 2021 is filled with even more blessings. And while this year has been challenging, I think, for all of you out there who's struggling, I try to tell myself this is difficult. There's no doubt it's difficult. While you're going through the midst of your storm, instead of asking God, why me? Ask God, what is this? What do you want me to learn from this? What am I to take away from this? I think asking those type of questions, shifting our mindsets, it eases our pain, eases our anxiety, and gives us an ability to start looking for more solutions.
Yes, sir.
And with that, peace.
Peace.